Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's our 2025 men's draw preview and prediction video, and we have a stacked draw. We really do. I cannot wait to get into it. And interestingly enough, it's not only the first Grand Slam of the year, but I would argue that the set of first round matches we have at this tournament are the best set of first round matches at a Grand Slam on the men's side, specifically for quite some time. The matchups are incredible. There are a lot of 50-50s, a lot of potential banana skins. We're going to get into the detail, of course. I'm going to go through every single match and we're going to pick a winner for each match, work our way through the draw, and ultimately I will give you guys my champion. On top of that, we're going to touch upon the projected quarterfinals first as well. I'll give you guys my commentary as we work our way through the draw. I'll try and cover as many matches as possible with my commentary, but of course, some matchups I may just pick a winner and not give a super detailed answer. There's a lot to get into, so let's start. Before we do though, remember that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you are listening on a podcast platform, or both, even better. And if you are a member, thank you for supporting the channel. It really, really does help us, so much appreciated. Shout out to our contributors on YouTube. And if you want to contribute on YouTube or any other platform, do consider it. It really does help us out. We've got obviously a number of running costs for the platform, and we attended Wimbledon last year. We're hoping to attend more big tournaments, including Wimbledon, including other tournaments as well. We managed to attend 4 last year, and we want to attend double this year. But we need money for, well, applications, for travel costs, for running costs. So anything is obviously greatly appreciated. Okay, let's get into this then. So one of the biggest question marks going into this draw was, would we get a really lopsided half with Djokovic, Sinner, and also Alcaraz in the same half? Now, we didn't get that, but what we did get was Alcaraz and Djokovic in the same half, and ultimately meaning that Alcaraz and Djokovic will potentially play a quarter-final at the Australian Open. So if you're an Alcaraz or Djokovic fan, you may want to close your eyes. You may want to tune out this video, maybe give yourself some time to process it, because I'm going to be honest, before you even get into the draw, Alcaraz and Djokovic have shocking draws. Like, they are not easy whatsoever. Sinner's draw is pretty good, as is Zverev's, if I'm being honest. Of course, he is in that half, so he'd have to potentially play Alcaraz or Djokovic in a semi-final, but his potential quarterfinalist is not too bad, and his section isn't too bad in quarter as well. The potential projected quarterfinals even are Jannik Sinner versus Alex de Minaur, Taylor Fritz versus Daniel Medvedev, Carlos Alcaraz versus Novak Djokovic, and Alexander Zverev versus Casper Ruud. So those are the projected quarterfinals. Obviously, we know that it's very rare that the top 8 seeds all make it through to the quarterfinals and play each other. It's not a regular occurrence, and it's not really an occurrence at all, in all honesty. But, you know, you would expect at least a number of these players to show up and make those quarterfinals. I mean, it's also very rare that none of them make the quarterfinals as well. So let's get into the draw then. So Jannik Sinner plays Nicolas Jarry in the first round. He's not only the number 1 seed and number 1 player in the world, but he's also the defending champion, of course. The Australian Open was his maiden Grand Slam title last year when he beat Daniel Medvedev in 5 sets, coming from 2 sets down to ultimately win it and then go on to an incredible season of just multiple titles, 92% win rate, also won the US Open and had a phenomenal season on all surfaces, but especially on hard court. So going into this, he's going to be one of the favorites, of course. He's had a rest. He hasn't played any warm-up tournaments, and I'm assuming he's been working hard in the preseason, working his way up to this tournament. I think he'll get through Nicolas Jarry. I know Jarry is quite dangerous. He's a good player on all surfaces, big serve, big weapons, but lacks maybe the movement to really challenge Sinner as the rallies get longer. I don't think he's going to be able to win a high enough percentage of those shorter points to get the win over Sinner, in my opinion. So I'm going to go for Yannick to get through that. I think it should be relatively straightforward. It's definitely not the easiest draw, I'm going to be honest, or for a first round. Jarry, has been known to cause some upsets, but I do think Sinner should be able to navigate his way through it okay. School Kate is a wild card from Australia. He plays Taro Daniel. I'm going to go with Taro Daniel to get through that. Marcus Giron plays Yannick Hanfman. I'm going to go for Giron. On a hard court, I back him over Hanfman. Echeverry Kaboli, this is a fantastic first round. This is where it starts to get absolutely mental. So we've got Thomas Martin Echeverry versus Flavio Kaboli. Echeverry is a very talented Argentinian, still quite young. Flavio Kaboli, also young and Italian, and he is seeded at 32. So, I mean, look, if it was a clay court, I'd probably go with Echeverry. But because on hard court, I'm going to go with Kaboli. I feel like he's slightly better suited to hard courts, although Echeverry is not a bad hard court player. I just think with recent form and also the surface, maybe Kaboli just has the edge, but it's a 50-50 on paper. Huber Hurkacz plays Talon Griekspoor. Now, Hurkacz played the United Cup and didn't play the best at least in terms of results anyway. It wasn't a great showing from him. He did show a pretty high level against Taylor Fritz. He lost that in a very close 3-set match. And, when watching that, there are some interesting things to notice. He's obviously teamed up with Ivan Lendl. I would still like to see him come forward to the net more. He has fantastic hands. He's got one of the best serves on tour. He's not the best mover, and he doesn't have the biggest weapons from the back of the court. And again, I'm not a legendary coach like Ivan Lendl, but if I was in Hurkacz's corner, I would be telling him to get forward as much as possible and not to try and grind from the back of the court. It's just not what he should be doing, in my opinion. He plays Talon Griekspoor, who's very dangerous, but I feel like Hurkacz should edge it, given how quick the courts are going to be as well. Griekspoor's a really solid player. I mean, he's been very good in the last 18 months. Some great wins, and he's been seeded at some of these slams as well. And I do wonder whether he's due a little bit of a run at a slam. And it could be potentially the Australian Open, but I'm going to go for Hurkacz to get through this. But he is susceptible to an early upset, so I'm hoping he doesn't let me down. Kecmanovic plays Lajovic, and all Serbian affair will go with Kecmanovic. Then we've got, these matchups are unbelievable. The next three are just insane. We have Matteo Berrettini versus Cam Norrie. Cam Norrie, and Berrettini's a former Grand Slam finalist. Norrie's a Grand Slam semi-finalist. These guys have made multiple second weeks of slams, quarterfinals, etc. Norrie has not been playing the best for the last 12 months. Berrettini is on the up. His ranking has just been recovering really nicely, trending in the right direction after a long layoff. So I'm going to go with Berrettini to get the win. But Norrie could frustrate him, definitely. And one of the biggest things for me, I think, in this matchup is the backhand of Berrettini. How's it going to hold up? Norrie is just going to be relentless with his lefty forehand into the Berrettini backhand. And Berrettini is going to have to utilize that backhand slice, which is very good. It's one of the better ones on tour. He's going to have to try and utilize that and change direction quickly down the line with it to get access to that Norrie backhand, which is very flat. And, Berrettini will want to be hitting some explosive forehands off that shot. Then we've got another really incredible matchup with Zhang Zhizhen versus Holger Rune. Now, Holger Rune had a pretty disappointing, I think it's fair to say, 2024. Definitely didn't hit the heights I think he would have expected of himself as well. Zhang Zhizhen is a very dangerous player. Gives it his all, very tenacious. Pretty well-rounded player as well. Holgeruna will need to be at his best. This is a potential banana skin. It's got upset alert. Sorry, I sounded very posh there. Upset alert written all over it. And I do think I'm going to back Holger. And I hope he wins just because I think he's got the better potential out of the two players to make a deep run. But we'll have to see. He's going to have to play some consistent tennis, and that hasn't really been his MO as of late. Stefanos Tsitsipas plays Alex Michelsen. This is a really tough matchup for Steph. And actually, he lost the only time they played. So that's not great reading for him. It's only the one match, but he lost in Tokyo 4-6, 6-1, 6-2. And my thinking is, though, that Steph, with his record at the Australian Open, multiple semi-finals, a final, of course, as well in 2023, he actually loves the Australian Open, which is very weird because you'd expect him to do better at the US Open because their hard courts are a bit slower than the Australian Open with the one-handed backhand and the fact that he loves clay and a bit more time to really set up his shots. You'd expect him to prefer the US Open, but he actually comes out swinging really nicely at the start of the year at the Australian Open, and it might just be to do with the timing rather than the specific surface. But I'm going to go with him to beat Alex Michelsen. I mean, Tsitsipas last year lost to Taylor Fritz in the fourth round in 4 sets, and that was a little bit of an upset, but not a huge one. I'm sure he won't want to go out to another American, especially this early at the Australian Open. James McCabe plays Martin Landaluce. Luce even qualifier will go for the qualifier. Landaluce. Gabriel Diallo plays Luca Nardi. Great to see Gabriel Diallo. He is a very solid player. I watched him play at Wimbledon qualifying up close and seems to have a little bit about him. Luca Nardi, of course, we know he's got a lot about him as well. Beat Djokovic last year. I'm going to go Diallo, though. I feel like the courts will suit his bigger game, and I think he'll get the W. Karen Khachanov, Adrian Manarino. That's a really tough match for Khachanov. Manarino is just so good on these quicker hard courts and redirects beautifully, frustrates you with the slow pace and the variation. But I think Khachanov will get the job done. Then we've got another incredible matchup in Francisco Cerundolo versus Alexander Bublik. And look, Bublik, I'm not sure how seriously he's taking his tennis right now. I think Cerundolo is going to be too solid for him. And I'd like to see Bublik win and make a run, but I don't think it's going to be now, that's for sure. I'm going to go with Zizou Bergs to beat Diaz Acosta. Great to see Zizou in action. Interviewed him at Wimbledon as well. Very down-to-earth guy and pretty chilled, to be honest. Tristan Boyer qualifier plays Federico Correa. Go for Boyer, the qualifier. Then we've got an interesting one here. Now, Van der Zandschulp versus Alex de Minaur. Now, de Minaur shouldn't really have too many problems, but we've seen what Van der Zandschulp is capable of when, of course, he beat Alcaraz and Nadal at the back end of last year. So I guess the question is, can he recapture some of that form and bring it in to 2025? And that would be fantastic. Okay. Taylor Fritz to beat Jenson Brooksby for me. Good to see Brooksby back in action, but I think Fritz will get the W there. Boran. I was going to say Goran Ivanisevic apparently is playing. Borna Coric plays Christian Garin, qualifier. Garin is a solid player, and it's great to see him doing well on different surfaces. The one thing I'm going to say, though, is I still think his game is very clay orientated, and I think Coric will get the win at the Australian Open. Francisco Comisana versus Daniel Altmaier. We'll go for Daniel Altmaier for that one. Then we've got an all-French affair with Gael Monfils versus Giovanni Mpessi Perricard. This is a fantastic matchup. Perricard, Perricard has been really good the last 9 months. Won a challenger in Lyon on 250. And then since then, made that really good run at Wimbledon. End of the year, okay. I think he was struggling on the hard courts. And then at the start of this year, he's really got to grips with the fact that, look, I need to be coming forward more, shorting the points. I shouldn't really be hitting longer rallies from the back of the court. Yes, I move well for a guy who's 6'8", 6'9", but I'm still not going to be as good a mover as a majority of the players. He's clearly worked on his fitness as well, though, so when he needs to dig deep a little bit, he can. But I've seen him coming forward to the net more, very assured and calm. Good volleys, good hands, and the serve, of course, has been booming as always. For Gael Monfils is on the opposite spectrum. He's towards the back end of his career, whereas Pericard's up and coming. And his game is a bit different. It's not quite as aggressive. It's more flashy, but a very counter-punching style for the most part. And we know that he can ramp it up. He can be exciting, but he can sometimes get lulled into playing a bit of a safe game, I think it's fair to say. I think Pericard will get the win here. I think youth will trump experience. Ben Shelton to beat Brandon Nakashima. Nakashima is a potential banana skin for Ben. But these courts, I mean, Shelton should be able to do something on them. Nakashima's underrated. He could. That is. It's got upset alert all over it. I mean, he does, but anyways, let's move on. Pablo Carreno Busta versus Kamil Matrak. We'll go for Carreno Busta. Bautista Agut versus Shapovalov. I mean, Shapovalov's had a good last couple of weeks, but I actually think RBA is going to get the win. Arnaldi Musetti will go for Musetti, although Arnaldi's solid, very solid. And then we've got arguably my favorite first round matchup of them all, and we've gone through so many great ones already. Andre Rublev versus João Fonseca, the qualifier. Interviewed him at Wimbledon after he lost. He actually still came and did an interview, which is, by the way, amazing. Not many players do that. Not a lot of players do that. So, yeah, that was great given how young he is. And he was very mature, very assured in the way that he spoke. So, yeah, very impressive young man. Lorenzo Sonego plays Stan Wawrinka in the first round. Wawrinka has, of course, won the Australian Open in the past, but that was a long time ago, and he's not quite at those heights at the moment. Sonego also has had some run-ins with some players, and he potentially could get fired up, and we could see some interesting moments in this matchup. But I think Stan Wawrinka will get the win. I'm going for Marjan over Sebo with Wilch, TFO over Rindenek, Poprin over Mute, Hijikata over Kruger. I'm going to go with Lerner to beat Camilo Ugo Carabelli, qualifier team to get the win. Medvedev to beat Samrej, and Djokovic to beat Basavaradi. I butchered his name. Basavaradi. And look, I mean, yeah, I think Djokovic will get the win. Jaime Faria qualified versus Kotov. Apalka to beat Onklin. Apalka, of course, had and has had an incredible last week or so, and he's been impressive. After winning against Djokovic, he's just looked revitalized. Sumit Nagel versus Thomas Mahach. We're going to go for Thomas Mahach. Lehechka to beat Li Tu. Gaston to beat Jessica. Goffin and Bonzi will go with Goffin. Dimitrov to beat Fognini. Draper to beat Navon. Kokkinakis to beat Safiullin. Jama and Vukic Jama. Korda to beat Lucas Klein. Jordan Thompson to beat Dominic Kepfer. Qualifier Alexander Muller to beat Nuno Borges. Nishioka and Aziz Dugaz. Going Nishioka, although Aziz has made some history there, which is incredible. Alexandra Sevchenko versus Carlos Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz should get through that. Ruud to beat Manar, and then Mensik to beat Balashvili. Or what was wrong with my pronunciation? Sorry, Basilashvili. Zhang or Shang Juncheng versus Fakino. I'm going to go with Shang to get the win here. It's going to be a tough matchup, but he should get the win. He's been playing well in the last 6 to 9 months. Jan Struff versus FAA. We'll go with FAA, but again, potential banana skin for Felix. Tabio versus Carberes Bayana Tabio. And then we've gone James Duckworth over Dominic Stricker. Keenan Shikori over Thiago Montero. Tommy Paul to beat Christopher O'Connell. Umber to beat Gigante. Hedi Habib plays Bu Yanch. I'm butchering all these names. Bu Yanchokat. And I'm going to go with Bu. Adam Moulton versus Quinton Hallis. Quinton Hallis. Otto Vatanen versus Arthur Feast. Arthur Feast. For me, Sebastian Baez and Arthur Cajal. Go for Baez, why not? And then we've got what everyone's been looking forward to, the guy who's been talking a lot and has a lot of people's attention. Nick Kyrgios plays Jacob Fernie from Britain. Will go for Kyrgios to get the win against his, hopefully for him, it'll be with the crowd support. Pedro Martinez versus Luciano Daldere. Go with Pedro Martinez. Then we'll go for Zverev over Puig. Okay, so on to round 2. So I've gone for Yannick Sinner over Taro Daniel, Kaboli over Marcus Giron. Then it gets interesting because you've got Hubert Hurkacz versus Kecmanovic. I think Hurkacz should get through that. Berrettini Rune is a fantastic match. I mean, look, Rune has the weapons, as does Berrettini. Rune is a bit more physical than Berrettini. He's got better fitness, better defense. Berrettini's got the better serve, better hands of the net. Rune should have better shot tolerance. Berrettini is going to be the one on the front foot, or try to be the one on the front foot throughout the match. I think Rune might just have enough. Berrettini still not at his best from what I've seen anyway. And Rune, I'm hoping that he's going to pick up some form at the start of 2025. Tsitsipas to beat Landaluce, and then Hatchinot to beat Diallo. I'm going to go with Cerundolo to beat Zizou Bergs, and I'm also going to pick Alex de Minaur to beat qualified Tristan Boyer. I think Fritz should beat Chorich, and Pericard should beat Altmaier. Shelton should beat Carreño Busta, and Bautista Agut should beat... No, Musetti should beat Bautista Agut. But Wawrinka doesn't have anyone, so let me check. Maybe I missed someone from the previous round. My man Wawrinka doesn't have anyone to play against. Yeah, that's why, because I didn't pick the biggest match of the first round, Rublev Fonseca. You know what? A lot of people are very high on Fonseca, and I can see why. I obviously discussed how he spoke to me, and he was very, very, very good. I thought, in terms of the way he spoke and just everything about him, very, very polished speaker, and I was impressed. I was very impressed. He's also got a very big game. I think that's one of the biggest things, right? It's not just all talk. He does have a very big game. He can back it up, and I think he's going to be a fantastic player in the future. There's going to be some great shot making between the two players. Fonseca's an explosive. Posh. I don't know why I went posh there. An explosive baseliner, and he's got a natural net game. He is a little bit like Carlos Alcaraz was at that age, and they've got some similarities. But I would say, he might even be he's a bit like Sinner in terms of the way that he defends and explodes out the corners, and has a bit of Alcaraz in terms of volleys. And that's not to say that he's going to be as good as those guys. I'm also not saying that he has and plays exactly like them, but there are some similarities. That's all. And he does bring the excitement factor, with winners down the line from behind the baseline, a couple of meters behind the baseline, with passing winners on the stretch. And, he definitely fights for every point, has just won the Next Gen Finals. I'm actually going to go with Fonseca to get the win and upset Andrei Rublev, which would be massive. for Fonseca, top 10 win. And I'm actually going to go Fonseca to beat Wawrinka. Stand the man. TFO to beat Marjan. For me, TFO's just changed his apparel sponsorship. It's gone from Nike to Lululemon. Popyrin to beat Hijikata. Medvedev to beat Leonardine. Djokovic to beat Kotov. Mahac to beat Opelka for me. I think he can do it. Opelka's going to be tough. He's got good form coming into this. But I think Mahac will get the win. Lehechka to beat Gaston. He's had a really good last couple of weeks as well. Dimitrov to beat Goffin and Draper to beat Kokin. Naukos, that'll be a fun matchup though. Korda to beat Zuma and Thompson to beat Muller. I know Muller's just won a title, but I think Thompson will get the win at home, especially as well. He's a tough cookie. Alcaraz to beat Nishioka. I'm going to go for a bit of an upset here. Well, it's a big upset. I'm going to go for Jakub Mensik, the 18 or 19-year-old, in the second round to upset number 6 seed Casper Ruud. I think Mensik's got the ability. He's got the tools. And I still am not sold, even though Casper Ruud has made a final of the US Open. I'm still not sold 100% on his hardcore capabilities outdoors, especially. And not even just that. I think the Australian Open and the conditions, how quick the courts are, it doesn't suit his game. So I'm going to go for Jakub Mensik. I'm going to go for Shang John Cheng to beat Felix Auger-Aliassime. And I know, again, Felix has been in some good form, but the lefty combination into Felix's two-handed backhand is not going to be a particularly fruitful matchup for Felix. And his slice is not amazing either. So I feel like that ad corner is going to be a real pain point for Felix in that match, or I think he'll end up coming out second best and losing the match. But we'll see if they do play and how he gets on. Tabio and Duckworth will go for Tabio. Tommy Paul to beat Nishikori. Oh my gosh, could Nishikori beat Tommy Paul? Maybe. You know I'm going for it. I'm going for the upset. I'm going for Nishikori to beat Tommy Paul. It's a big one. I'm going to go for Humbert to beat Boo. Feast to beat Hallis, a fellow Frenchman. Kyrgios Baez. Now, Baez could beat Kyrgios, but on a hardcore, I think I have to pick Kyrgios. Zverev to beat Pedro Martinez in the second round. They've got a third round. Sinner and Caboli. So 2 Italians. Sinner for me. Rune Hurkacz. Now, this is, again, a very interesting matchup. I think the problem is if Hubert starts coming to the net a lot, Holger will probably pass him with a lob or a great angle, and that approach shot's got to be spot on. I'm going to go for Rune. I think he might frustrate Hurkacz. Tsitsipas to beat Khachanov, and Cerundolo, Alex de Minaur, go for Alex de Minaur. Fritz Pericard. Pericard could cause the upset here. I'm telling you now, Fritz is not a particularly good returner. There could be some tiebreakers. I'm going to go a bit crazy, I think, with this draw. But I'm going to go for Pericard to cause the upset, which would be massive. That would be a monumental win for him as well. Ben Shelton and Lorenzo Musetti will go for Shelton. Just. Fonseca and TFO, I think this is where he'd lose. TFO to beat João Fonseca. Medvedev to beat Popyrin. Sure, Popyrin will back himself against Medvedev, but I've got a feeling Medvedev would come out on top. Then Djokovic, Thomas Mahac in the third round, which is unbelievable. What a matchup that would be. I'm going to go for Djokovic, although I'll tell you what, just because of circumstances, it's a real 50-50. So, yeah, we'll see how Djokovic gets on with Thomas Mahac. Yuri Lehechka and Grigor Dimitrov. Wow, it's a tough one. It's a really tough one because Lehechka's been in great form. Dimitrov generally has been in really good form the last 12 to 18 months, but I'm not sure how his body's holding up after he retired from a match recently. I'm going to go for Lehechka to get the win here, cause the upset. And then another matchup between two players in similar are in a similar position in their careers. Jack Draper and Sebastian Corda. And I'm going to go for Draper to get the win there. Jordan Thompson and Carlos Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz to get the win there. Mensik and Shang. Mensik for me. Tabio and Kai Nishikori. And then Feast to beat Humbert. Right? Yeah. And then this is what I want to see. Round 3. Zverev Kyrgios. Zverev Kyrgios. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that? Tell me anyone. Because I don't believe you. Zverev and Kyrgios. Head-to-head 4-3 in favor of Kyrgios. The last time they played there was 2019. Wow, it's 5 years ago. I think it'd be a big ask. I feel like being Zverev would be a big ask. I think he'd need to play lights out, hope the wrist also just holds up. And let's see. So I think this is where he'd lose. I think Zverev will beat Kyrgios. Round 16. I mean, what a round of 16. This would be Sinner and Rune. Wow. As much as I'd like to say Rune could cause the upset, I think it's unlikely. So Sinner for me. Tsitsipas and Alex de Minaur. I mean, this is a tough one. I'll come back to that. Pericard and Shelton, 2 big servers going in. I think Shelton would get the win. TFO and Medvedev. We'll go with Medvedev. Djokovic, Lehechka is a tough fourth round. Or round of 16 for everyone, I think, because the turnaround's been quick. And I think Djokovic, I think he'd beat Yuri Lehechka. Draper Alcaraz is such a bad draw for Carlos. Go for Carlos, but not sold. And then we've got Jakub Mensik versus Kai Nishikori. Will it be young man or will it be old man who gets the win? And literally old man's him. I'm gonna go Kai Nishikori, you know that. And then Arthur Fils and Zverev. It's not an easy third round for Zverev. Round of 16 even. Zverev does not like playing Arthur Fils. Yes, the question is, do I go against the grain on a quick hardcore and go for Arthur Fils? He's capable, but I don't know if he can win 3 straight sets or 3 sets generally against Zverev in the same match. So I'm going to go for Zverev to get the win there. Okay, so these are my projected quarterfinals that I've picked. Sinner versus Tsitsipas. I've gone for Sinner to get the W there. Ben Shelton versus Daniel Medvedev. I think Medvedev will be able to beat Shelton in this aspect. I've gone for Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. We'll have to come back to that in a second. And then Nishikori and Zverev. So Alcaraz looking to level up the head-to-head once again after it's now 4-3 in favor of Novak Djokovic. And Alcaraz, of course, has been talking about the fact that he wants to complete the career slam, winning all 4 Grand Slam titles. The question is, how well will Djokovic be playing? Novak Djokovic or Carlos Alcaraz? You know what? I'm actually going to go for Djokovic to beat Alcaraz at the quarterfinal stage. Is that even right? Both is on. No. I'll go with Alcaraz. Alcaraz to beat Djokovic. I don't know. It's going to be crazy if we get that. I hope we do. Right, semi-finals have gone for Sinner and Medvedev and Alcaraz and Zverev. So I've gone for Sinner and Zverev to get through that. Zverev beat Alcaraz at the quarterfinal stage last year. I think it will be a repeat of that. And Medvedev only beat Sinner once out of, I think it was like 6 or 7 matches between the two last year. Okay, so the final I've got is Sinner and Alexander Zverev. I'm going to go for Sinner to beat Alexander Zverev in his first Australian Open final. It would also be his 3rd Grand Slam final, and it would be his 3rd losing Grand Slam final. Jannik Sinner, I'm going for him to retain his title and get the W at Melbourne Park. Let me know in the comment section below who you picked to win and why, and what's your favourite first round matchup.